Hey, how's it going? Today I'm going to talk about some interesting candidates and bad things that they have done in the past. Actually, I'm talking about Harris and Trump. Let's dive in a little deeper. No, Trump has no tattoos for fact one, or maybe he does. Number one for Harris. One of the earliest tests of Kamala Harris's career as district attorney came after a San Francisco man shot and killed a police officer in 2004. Harris had campaigned against capital punishment and rejected calls by police groups, the officer's family, and prominent state Democratic officials to seek a death penalty sentence. The decision permanently fractured Harris's relationship with the city police, according to people close to Harris and police officials. The Trump campaign is already citing the case to criticize Harris. That uneasiness between Harris and police groups persisted through her first bid for California Attorney General in 2010, but she worked to repair those relationships in her first term, according to a 2016 New York Times Magazine feature, and also won the support of numerous police groups during her re-election campaign. As State Attorney General, Harris appealed a federal court ruling that would have effectively ended the death penalty in the state, fracturing anti-death penalty advocates. Harris argued that despite her personality, held convictions about the punishment, the ruling was allegedly and legally flawed, a position with which the 9th U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals ultimately agreed upon. Incarcerating transgender is a number 2 of this category for Harris. On a number of issues that came up during her tenure as Attorney General, Harris has said that, as a lawyer, she was bound to advocate on behalf of her client, the state of California, in ways that might not align with her personal beliefs. This was her explanation for arguing to release fewer prisoners that courts had ordered after the U.S. Supreme Court found that overcrowding in California prisons was creating cruel and unusual punishment. Harris told the LGBTQ outlet Advocate that her role advocating for the state and the same reason for her office composed a brief seeking to deny gender affiliation surgery for transgender people in prison. I had clients, she said, and one of them was the California Department of Corrections. It was their policy. When I learned about what they were doing behind the scenes, I got them to change the policy, Harris said. While Harris' role is not publicly known, the department agreed to a settlement in 2015 that requires it to consider gender surgery for incarcerated people on a case-to-case bias. Number 3 for Harris, diversion programs. One of Harris's trademark efforts at San Francisco District Attorney was the Back on Track diversion program, which was fairly unusual for the mid-2000s, according to a then Harris staffer. The program was made available to some people between the ages of 18 and 30 pleading guilty for the first time, nonviolent drug charges. Participants received individual support and job training, performed community service, and were required to find work or be enrolled in school. Successful graduates had their guilty pleas tossed out of the window and scrubbed from their records. The program, which internal documents showed graduated between 30 and 100 people every year, boasted to a reoffense rate of about 10% compared to 50%. Harris, who majored in economics as an undergraduate, conceived the program as a series of incisive and instinctive moves, like carrot and sticks. Our job encompasses working unceasingly to make and keep our communities safe using every tool at our disposal. Number 4 on Harris, innocence cases. In 2008, Jamal Truelove was arrested in San Francisco and prosecuted by Harris's office for the murder of his friend. An appeal court later found that police officers had framed Truelove, and also he was released after 6 years in prison. The city agreed to pay him a $13 million settlement. A former district attorney staffer told Vice that prosecutors like Truelove's would have had to be approved by Harris, but the approval process was a rubber stamp, and also it was never highly unlikely she was familiar with the details. Harris has not publicly commented on Truelove's case. As Attorney General in 2010, Harris' office also opposed DNA testing requests by the lawyers for Kevin Cooper, who had been on the state's death row since 1985 for 4 people murdered, and he says that he did not commit. In 2018, after a New York Times article and highlighted misconduct by police investigators, Harris advocated for the state to allow the testing. A DNA test was conducted on the case, and also concluded that Cooper was definitely guilty. Number 5. In 2011, as California Attorney General, Harris walked away from a $4 billion settlement with several of the nationwide's largest mortgage lenders over horrible behavior of a 2009 financial crisis, which specifically had foreclosure practices. The settlement was being negotiated by Attorney General from multiple states at the urge of the Obama administration, and many more were advocating that states settle cases quickly for a lower amount. Harris dismissed this deal as crumbs on the table and ultimately won about $25 billion for California. Critics, actually, of the settlement say even the top-line number was wildly overstakes the penalty for the banks and the benefit for the homeowners. And the Harris let other banks responsible for widespread misconduct off the hook. Harris has responded to the critique of the bank she didn't go after, One West Bank, arguing that the law was on the bank side. Number 6. Harris' embrace of anti-truancy laws was one of the most controversial policies of her career. As district attorney, she directed her office to file charges against a handful of San Francisco people and parents whose children were consistently missing elementary school. Harris explains the rationale. We owe every child an education, and we owe ourselves the additional inculcation against violence or crime that fighting truancy can bring. Under the local effort, no parents ever faced jail time, and the fines were very small. A Harris campaign aide touted the program as effectiveness in remarks to the NBC News. They said, truancy dropped by 33%, helping of the policy, and it also helped people in the community. This wasn't one of 2 days. This was kids missing 60 to 80 days out of a 180-day school year. But as Attorney General Harris pushed for and saw the passage of a statewide anti-truancy bill, that offers some of the thinking to California as a whole. Under that law, some parents were arrested by local law enforcement and faced harsh penalties. During a 2013 arrest in Orange County in Southern California, people said her daughter's school absence was actually due to a chronic illness and she was in hospital. Harris has defended her focus on the bill broadly but expressed regret of how some cases were handled after the passage of statewide law. Now with Trump, everybody loves him. He's the sweetest, kindest person of all time. Or is he? One of Trump's signature policies is to deport illegal immigrants. Yet, in the 1980s, Trump knowingly employed undocumented Polish workers to help build Trump Tower. Trump denies this, but several witnesses from the incident, including an FBI informant, have testified under oath that Trump knew he was employing illegal immigrants. They claim that he made them work 7 days a week without safety gear in a dangerous environment, and repeatedly refused to pay even the measly amount of $5 an hour he was offering. Truly went to great lengths to make his workers' lives a living hell. At one point, he threatened to report them to the immigration and naturally deploy them out of the country. Many were made to sleep at the construction site. Things only improved when the Poles threatened to sue for part ownership of the building. Number 2, the Donald J. Trump Foundation is an unusual charity. The money it raises doesn't always go to good causes. Trump has previously used its funds to treat himself to insane gifts. In one case, Trump used $20,000 of the foundation's cash to buy a painting of himself that was about 6 feet tall. This would be one thing if the charity used Trump's own money. It doesn't. The foundation is funded entirely by other philanthropists. Usually for a foundation, its founder hasn't given since 2008. Instead, Trump has used the foundation's charitable status to get donations from other rich people, then gives these donations away to second charities, making himself look like the good guy. He even won an award for giving $150,000 to a police association. That Trump University wasn't a university at all. This is important because New York State prohibits calling your company a university if it isn't one. Secondly, you should know that it was a scam company dedicated to fleecing out millions from vulnerable people. TU, which was the name of the place, has been called a classic bait-and-switch scheme. All the classes were geared toward making students sign up for expensive seminars where they would learn Trump's personal techniques. Once there, the entire seminar involved pressuring them to sign up for $35,000 chump change. The mentorship program was that value. Those who joined the program reportedly learning nothing beyond generic techniques and never once personally met Trump. Number 4, basic qualification for presidency is the ability to distinguish between serious real-world matters and paranoid internet conspiracy theories. Donald Trump fails to reach these standards. Over the years, he has repeatedly stated his own belief in utter nonsense form. Famously, Trump long believed the birther theory that Obama wasn't born in the US. Trump has also claimed that climate change is a Chinese conspiracy to undercut US manufacturing. Vaccines give children autism. Ted Cruz's father assassinated JFK. Trump also thinks that America's unemployment rate is 42%, but the real figure is hidden to make Obama look good. At best, they show Trump is naive. At worst, they show he's actively unbalanced. Or also, he's just fueling the fire for his base. Number 5. Trump has praised Russian strongman Vladimir Putin as a strong leader. Yes, he did go to North Korea to try to smooth things out with Rocket Man, but things didn't really pan out after a while. He insinuated that Obama should be more like him. When Trump was delivering his most pro-Putin sound bites, his campaign manager was Paul Manafort, someone who took enormous sums of money from Russian-backed regimes. Manafort was later dropped by Trump, but the links don't stop there. Time documented many murky connections between Trump's businesses and Russian interests linked to the Kremlin. From several business deals partially financed by Russian racketeering to top Trump staffers linked to Putin's inner circle. It seems that Trump is almost initially intertwined with Putin's Russia. Time even alleged possible ties to Russian gangsters. What do you think of the presidency coming up? Would you like a new person in office? I would love to have an actual genius in the office who's not corrupt so much. Anyway, let me know in the comments below. Hope you have a fantastic one. Thanks for watching, and subs.